everyone, welcome back to my channel. As promised, I'll be presenting you guys one of the craziest game that I've seen in a while. The moment I saw this game on the YouTube channel, I was like, I have to bring this to my audience because it's just insane. This game is played between two Chinese professionals. The black player is Luo Shihe, and the white player is Yun Hang, and he is a 4P. Luo Shihe is a 9P and he's a world champion. His opponent, I don't know him that much. According to the commentator, this guy is particularly good at life and death problems. He's the author of many life and death problems. So we'll see how their game goes. So Luo Shihe is playing as black, and the author of life and death problem is playing as white. First of all, let's examine the board. The first thing we notice is that there's a dragon trailing here, right? This is very insecure group. The other thing about black is that this group is not completely secured yet, because white can later on peep in, and then Hane here, and this group is not completely alive. But obviously it's kind of premature to attack this group right away because black can connect here. And there's no way to properly seal black in. Not to say there's also a little squeeze to Suji over here. So very difficult to actually kill this corner. So our main focus is really on this dragon. And white is really trying hard to figure out a way to properly attack the dragon. So let's say, for example, if white directly goes for the cut, black is going to cut. When white pulls the stone back and black takes the stone off the board, there's no obvious co-threat, right? Maybe you can find a few over here that black's going to respond, but black also has local co-threats. And if ever white loses this co, this dragon itself is also under a lot of pressure. So white thought very carefully, and then he thought it was premature to attack directly like that. So what he did in the actual game was to prepare for co-threats, right? He goes ahead and attach your opponent and looking for shard and co. This is a amazing strategy that I want my viewers to appreciate and learn, because a lot of times you can start a co right away, but you don't have co-threats. So what do? Well, leave it there and start and create co-threats first. So black is a 9P professional. He understands what white is doing, and then he is not responding to this because he doesn't want to create co-threats for his opponent. So instead, he connects his stone. This is a huge move because it cuts the connection between the two groups, causing insecurities for both groups and also securing his group. So this move looks like a move that doesn't generate any points, but it concerns the security for all three groups, so it is absolutely a huge move. White decides to follow up locally on top. Black pulls back, white connects, and then black now fixes the co-threat, right? So now black absolutely had to fix the co-threat because the life and death over here is going to cause a lot of co-threats. It's going to give white a lot of co-threats, so better get rid of that right now. So they start a fight in the center. And I need to speed up because the amazing part happens at the end. It's ridiculous. So we'll go through these moves real quick. Here it looks like there is a obvious cutting point, but if white actually goes ahead and cut, black can defend actually like this, right? So when white tries to fix this, black is going to extend up. And this is causing insecurities for these four guys. So this is not a pleasant game actually for white because of these guys have to now live and probably go for a liberty fight against the side. And in the meantime, black is going to gain back initiatives, right? Let's say some skirmish happened here. Black will follow up with, black's going to follow up with this. And all of a sudden, our three stones in the center might be in some trouble. So very important for white to not lose the initiative in the game. So in the actual game, white decides to seal the outside After an exchange, black has to connect himself. So now it looks like black is all connected. However, you are connected doesn't mean you are alive. So when we look at this dragon, it still looks like, and it's not so clear that, that black has two eyes. White goes ahead and Hane, black blocks, and then white connects. And here, this is really amazing part. Black is dead, right? Locally, if white goes for the kill, there's no way for black to make two eyes. But black now has to make use of white's insecurity in the corner to actually get something out of it. So let's see how the game plays out. Black Kosumis, white obviously has to block to secure the corner. Black, first of all, gets rid of the eye space. This eye cannot exist, right? If black ever wants to talk about life and death in the corner. When white takes, black decides to make some eye shape. White takes. Here, a lot of viewers, I think a lot of my viewers would be panicking and actually just make themselves alive. But this is actually, for professional play, this is a resigning move. Well, why is that? When white takes, this is Sente. Black connects. Now, just look at the difference. So before this group was under a lot of insecure. It's basically very insecure, actually, because it's cut off. But after this capture, in Sente, white is able to connect everything. This becomes a huge influence, and these two guys are basically useless stones, right? They don't do anything. They're right beside a huge wall that's they're just killed. And then the fight over here would become very good for black because this group has no insecurity. What white has to deal with is this group. So all of a sudden, white is gaining all the initiative on the board, and this is a lost game for black. Especially if your opponent is a professional player. So giving up these two stones is just called resigning for professional players. Maybe it is a little bit hard to appreciate as my viewers, right? Especially your level's not there, right? Why is this not playable, right? I still got corners, but I guess it comes with time. Don't worry if you don't understand it right now. The security is a huge asset, right? The fact you're alive is a very different thing than if your group is not alive. So yeah, I guess it comes with time. So black absolutely had to connect. He cannot go back down and make himself live. Even if that he knew that this might be killed, right? This entire dragon might be killed. White goes ahead and kill it. And then after this exchange, we can see that there's no way that black can make himself alive. So this is where the game is super exciting. Black is dead. But what about white? White has no eye here. This is a false eye. And then all of a sudden, after so many moves, a beautiful game between two professionals is going to be determined by, by the very limited space in this corner, right? How exciting is that? I mean, a game between between two professionals comes down to a life and death problem. And this is a very complicated life and death problem. And this is where the magic starts to happen. Black first needs to exchange this move and connect himself, right? Making sure that he extends the liberties. So these moves are okay. Maybe black should have been more accurate by playing here, right? Forcing white to play here and then giving himself the chance to actually make a ko. So this move is a little bit inaccurate, but it is okay. It doesn't affect the number of liberties, which we'll talk about in a bit. And then black decided to hop into the corner. And this is a life and death problem, pretty much. So the story is very simple. If white lives, black needs to resign because the dragon is killed. And obviously, if black is able to kill the corner, white is going to resign. So it's all about who has done more life and death problems in daily lives. So So you might be wondering, well, this is a hard life and death problem, but it shouldn't be hard for 9p professionals, right? Like this shouldn't be a big deal. The limited space that we have here, it isn't super hard. Well, actually, tell you the truth, this is a 9p life and death problem. This is not an easy problem to solve, especially it involves the Liberty fight. And especially if both players had, time pressure, especially in Boyomi, super hard to read this thing out. So I try to present the exhaustive variations to give you the feel of how hard this life and death problem is. So let's first look at a couple variations. So the first thing, let's say if white just blocks over here, right? We'll look at the other variation soon. If white blocks here, this is already hard enough, right? So black has to be very careful here, right? Anything else you play might result in Seki in the corner, or might give a white a lot of liberties in the corner, and therefore your dragon cannot fight liberty, and then they just get killed. So every move matters from here. So black now has a Tsuji, that is to play the 1-2 Kosumi here, right? As we can already tell that this is a super hard problem. This is looking at a Hane here, right? So white obviously does not want to allow that, right? If you play this one, black is going to Hane back. When you play this one, this becomes a Ko. And of course, black has a few Ko threats elsewhere, including enclosing this dragon. So white is pretty lost, right? If this happens. White's correct defense is to Kosumi here, not only block the way back, but also aim at killing these three guys. Black follows up with a tiger's mouth. And sure, white can go ahead and live himself, but then when black goes through here, black is also alive. But on top of that, black gained a lot of territory. And what's remaining for white is a losing game, because this group is insecure, so is this group. And white just does not have the territory to compensate for the two corners here. So that's a losing game for white. White pretty much has to kill here. So let's see the variation. When white plays this one, we talked about how white cannot just kill the stone. So white's correct move is to extend down, preventing disconnection. And here, instead of connecting back directly, black needs another Tsuji, that is to throw in here. So this is aiming at a Ko here. So white is going to take back, and now black connects back. So if white just plays this one, black is going to go ahead and make a 9 here. And actually white's liberty is very, very short. If you look at what's going to happen, when black connects, when you go in and then you take, you might think there's a lot of liberty, but there isn't, because when black peeps in, you pretty much have to connect on one side. And then we can tell this liberty fight is, you're not going to win. Black just has too many liberties to kill your corner. So it's very, very important for white to peep here. And here black cannot make a mistake, right? If black connects, white is actually going to have a Tsuji here. That makes a Ko inside. And now this is very hard to kill white's corner. So before you go back and connect, black needs the Atari here first, making sure there's no Ko. When white connects, black is going to connect here. And now we're just going to play out the liberty fight and see who wins. So white connects, black goes here. This exchange doesn't lose any liberties for white. When white connects, black blocks. White pushes here, black. So they just start filling in liberties. White connects. And actually white has a lot of liberties with this shape in the corner. but we'll see who wins. Black peeps in, white goes ahead, and then it's just filling in liberties basically. Black throws in again, white squeeze liberty, and then here we are at the end of the liberty fight, and all of a sudden you can see it seems black only has 2 liberties, but you cannot fill in from either directions. So you have to connect first, but then that's just way too late. Black's gonna throw in, and then throw in again, and then black is gonna win the liberty by 1, and therefore that's game over for white. So white does not want to go through this path, right? Because you're gonna lose by 1 liberty and actually just get killed. So that's the variation that explains you why white should not block here. So the other possibility is the jump here, right? So that's the other possibility. Well, why not jump here? Well, because there's already a ko going on, so you cannot play that. So actually, the best move is for white to play this one. This is actually played in the actual game, and this tells you that the white player, which is the author of Life and Death, a lot of life and death problems, is pretty good at life and death himself. So in the actual game, black decided to play this one. So if we look at the variation, let's just simplify our reading. By pushing here, this exchange doesn't do any harm. So let's look at a couple of variations here, right? I can't cover the exhaustive variation, obviously, but the first one is for black to hane here. And this is extremely tricky, right? So first of all, white does not want to block here because black can hop back and make a ko. Now there are 2 problems. One, black is trying to live here. So if you fix your corner, black's gonna live, right? And then a losing game for white, obviously. White has to kill here. But when you try to kill black here, this becomes a ko. And then black has a lot of ko threats locally. So that's also a losing game. So immediately if you block here, that's just falling into a trap, and then you are pretty much lost. The correct move is for white to patiently turn here. Black is going to block, and then white is going to turn here. So here, black does not have the time to connect, right? So for example, black connects here. White's going to connect. This is a sente. When black connects the stones back, now white has a tsuji. Let's play the 1-3 turn. And all of a sudden, we realize this is a seki in the corner. If white blocks here, we can follow up like this, right? So pretty easy to tell this is a seki. And obviously, if white blocks turns here, white is going to turn here. And this is also a seki. But a seki means game over because it's seki inside, but black's dragon is dead, means everything is dead. That shows you that at this point, black has no time to save this stone. Black's most resilient move is to play this one and make sure that there's no seki. White connects, black pushes, and then connect the stone back. And then the best move basically for black to follow up is to at this point white takes first. So now black has to block. Otherwise, when white extend in, there's going to be a lot of liberties. White follows up by killing the dragon. When black takes back, white does not need to fight the ko right now. White just needs to turn here, making sure it's a shape like this. And now there's a liberty fight. So this is a very complicated liberty fight actually. So first of all, black needs to immediately connect the stone back. So let's say if it doesn't connect the stone back, there's gonna be a problem. So let's say you don't connect the stone back. You play this one. White's gonna throw in here, forcing you to take, and then he's gonna use a double ko. That forces you to connect here eventually. So let's say you squeeze the liberty, squeeze again, and now what can you do here? You cannot fill in here. If you take, I'm gonna take back. Then you have to take back, then I take back. So that's a waste of time. So black has to connect here. And at this point, white can start filling the liberties. From here, when you take, I can play this one. When you fill in, I can squeeze here. You fill in again. I'm gonna squeeze once more. Black cannot afford this ko, so he's gonna connect. Then we're gonna go from behind, and then we just need to do this once again. This long liberty fight, right? And then finally we can tell that at this point, black is losing the liberty fight by 1. So I've been reading this game for almost 20 minutes before I make this video, and I was having Lizzie right beside me, and it was a chaos, right, for Lizzie even to read things out locally because of how complicated this game is. So yeah, so at this point, so we talked about why you had to basically connect this stone, right? If you connect this stone, this is a different problem now. So so what's gonna happen is so for example, let's say white now throws in, black's gonna take, white connects. Now this is threatening to Atari from the outside, right? So black has to basically connect himself, and then we start liberty fight. Let's calculate this. So let's just read this out real quick. We take here, and black throws in, and now that's just a liberty fight over here. Take, go here, 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 here. Fill in, and then same result as last time, right? White's gonna kill black by 1 liberty. So every move you make here is very, very important, because any mistake, it could mean the difference between killing and getting killed. So we realize that this move is not going to work because at this point, there's no way to prevent white from capturing this stone. If white ever gets a chance to capture this stone, white's going to win the liberty fight by 1. So, in the actual game, or actually not in the actual game, but in the actual game, something similar happened to this. So instead of playing the honey, black decides to play the 2-2 vital point. So let's play out the variation. This is probably the most resilient defense for black. White connects here, black pushes and connect back. White is going to turn here, and then black needs to block here right away. So for example, if black extend, white has the Tsuji, and now it is either a Seki or black gets killed inside. Let's say, for example, this happens. Yeah, so this is just a life shape for white, and then black is dead, and that's game over. So black absolutely have to block here. That's what causes most complications. White follows up with honey, and then black honeys from behind, and that's the best variation for both sides. When white connects, black now has the chance to connect his stone finally. And then white goes ahead and start filling the liberties from the outside. And at this point, after filling in all these liberties, we're at a very, very interesting point in the game. That is, say, for example, if black throws in right now, white's going to take back, and then black doesn't have a co-threat. There's just no co-threat outside. None of this is co-threat. And that's game over, because if you don't have co-threat, the next move I will capture this and your dragon is dead. So black means that black cannot throw in. But neither can white. White obviously does not want to throw in because, let's say for example, if black plays somewhere else, you don't have co-threat either. So black cannot throw in, white cannot throw in. And so what's going to happen is they're just going to leave it here. And then black can start playing somewhere else, let's say for example. And white cannot get rid of this thing. It's always there. Black can always choose to throw in at 1-1 and start a co if he has a co-threat. But that if is a big if, because how can you find such a big co-threat that concerns a dragon of this size? So at this point, the game is very weird. White has no way to immediately get rid of this thing. If you play this is a useless move because black can still throw in at some point. Black can just go ahead and play somewhere else. If you keep going, then, well, black can just play elsewhere again. And yeah, you just never get the chance to get rid of this thing. Black always have a throw-in at 1-1. So I think both players are going to play from the outside at this point. And this is the most complicated variation that black should have played in the game. His dragon is kind of dead, but there's always this threat that white has to watch out for. So that would be amazing game moving on. This would definitely be a game in the history because just how special the situation is. None of the players can play anything locally. So that was a lot of explanation for this corner, obviously. Let's examine what they did in the actual game. So in the actual game, black decided to not exchange this immediately, but just play out like this. So that's kind of similar because after this exchange, it's the same thing. In the actual game, black did not hane at 1-4, which I believe to be a mistake. In the actual game, he decided to throw in here. That's also an interesting move, but that's actually not as good as haning here. When white takes, black throws in, and it becomes eventually it becomes a co inside here. So the last mistake is for black to block here. This is a misread. Black actually had to fight this co. But this is very, very difficult for black already because white has a lot of outside liberties and it takes a long time for black to win this co, right? It probably takes 5 moves. You have to give white 5 free moves outside to actually win this, to actually win the co in the corner. So that just becomes very, very hard at this point. But the last move is obviously a blunder because when white connects here, that becomes the last move of the game. Well, why is that? Why is the suicidal move the last move of the game? So if black takes back, white now has a 1-1 to Tsuji that kills the corner. If black connects, we can go from the outside. When you squeeze here, I can connect, and then squeezing here, black just does not have enough time to prevent white to live in a corner, and therefore the dragon is killed. The corner is also killed, and that's why the black player Luo Shihe decided to resign with this very humorous move on the board. Right? This looks like a suicide 1-1 move, but it's actually the correct reading. So I studied this game for a while today, and I really don't know. Maybe I misread something. I think this is a mistake. I think black should have gone for this variation that I talked about. And then it becomes that weird situation where neither side can play locally. So let's just recap sort of what happens when you do this. Right, we start filling in the liberties, and then we just, start doing this. Oh, sorry. Why did I squeeze here? Makes no sense. All right, so at this point, black obviously does not have the code thread throw in, so he plays elsewhere. Let's say he decides to go ahead and start some skirmish. So black's win condition is basically that he finds a code thread that is as big as a quarter of the board over here. But I mean, good luck doing that, right? This is just not possible. But for white cannot just play useless moves over here, because any move you play doesn't add any value, because black can still throw in at 1/1 anytime. So I'd say this is a losing game for black, just because how much is involved in here. And black pretty much can never find a code thread that is as big as a quarter of the board. But the annoying part for white is that he can never get rid of it. So very, very interesting game. I don't know what's going to happen if both players play like this in the actual game. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this beautiful game. I mean, this is the craziest game that I've seen in a while. Let's just quickly recap what happened. I think that at this point, after the throw-in, yeah, so at this point that, when white connected, right, this is how it ended. Oh no, it's after the, yeah, they made an exchange here. But eventually it's at this point when white connected 1/1, the black, in a very funny way that he had to resign. That's just a very beautiful thing that you can see on a Go board. And I find this very, very enjoyable. So I hope you guys liked the video, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more beautiful videos like this. And thank you very much for tuning in.